Good morning, Magister. My name is Karina Nicole Morgitio Vera, and during my observation of a fourth grade English class in China, I was able to identify several multiple intelligences in action, especially highlighting linguistic intelligence, which was meticulously applied throughout the lesson, and the structure of the class was designed to improve this intelligence through a review divided into carefully planned steps. The professor start the class began with a warm-up activity called a word association, which stimulated the students' vocabulary and verbal creativity. Then a review session was held using dynamic games such as Describe It, and which reforms the vocabulary and grammar previously learned. So the new words were introduced in an attractive way through the use of images and examples, using both the whiteboard and slides. Subsequently, repetition allowed exercise and word games were performed to assess students' compliance with basic vocabulary mastery and ability to formulate simple sentences in English. And in conclusion, the activities focus on conversational practice, thus promoting verbal fluency and social interaction. Um, as I mean, into students and in professor. So, according to my observation, the class satisfactorily met the criteria of being interesting and motivating for students, effectively adapting to the needs of a group with different levels of ability, especially because the professor divided the class into a group of girls and boys. And finally, this was a complete and enjoyable learning experience. Thank you so much.
Hello, Magister. My name is Byron Cumbillo, and I'm going to talk about interpersonal intelligence. In the video class of the English lesson for fourth grade students, several aspects of interpersonal intelligence we could observe. But first, what is interpersonal intelligence? It's the ability to understand and interact effectively with others. It involves skills like empathy, communication, and collaboration. Now, let's check the most relevant aspects. Teacher-student interaction. The teacher creates opportunities for students to interact with each other throughout the video. For instance, in the How Does It Feel game, students take turns asking and answering questions about a plush toy. This encourages students to communicate with each other and listen attentively to their peers' responses. Empathy and understanding. The teacher acknowledges a student's feeling of frustration by saying "very frustrating" and validates another student's feeling of hot saying "good job." When the student says "I feel very hot today." This shows the teacher is paying attention to his students' emotional states and creating a safe space to them to share their feelings. Positive social interactions. The video shows students interacting with each other and sharing ideas during the lesson. These positive social interactions provide opportunities for students to develop their social skills, build relationships, and practice effective communication. And the last one, collaborative learning. The teacher encourages students to work together in pairs, groups, during various activities. This fosters collaboration, communication, and teamwork among students, promoting the development of interpersonal skills. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hernan Tenorio, and I'm going to talk about intrapersonal intelligence. Here, the teacher asks some questions, does some activities so that students can reflect on their own feelings and experiences to help with the learning process. The first activity that the teacher does is asking the kids, "How do you feel today?" So that kids can practice the adjectives related to this topic learned beforehand, and they can internalize these meanings. And on top of that, also makes the students tell them what are they going to do. For example, one student said, "I am thirsty, so I'm going to drink water." The second activity that the teacher used was asking the students, "What kind of foods do you prefer?" In that way, they can relate the vocabulary of adjectives that they were practicing into their personal preferences. For example, some kids say, "I like salty food." And not only It makes them think about the adjectives like salty. It makes them think of more words related to this word so that they can build these neural links. And lastly, to practice the topic that was being presented in the class, which was another set of adjectives, this time related to the texture and how the different textures feel, he presented the students some items and he made them touch the items, and their job was to say how does it feel. So in this case, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just based on the personal interpretation, the own feelings of the students. That way, developing this type of intelligence and helping students remember new vocabulary by using these type of activities. Thank you.
Good evening, Magister. My name is Andrea Oviedo. I am going to talk about bodily kinesthetic intelligence, where the use of the body and the movements are implement the learning process, and the activities observed in the chosen class video. The teacher used several activities that promote the use of the body for expression and understanding. The first example is seen at the beginning of the class where the teacher used gestures to remind the class rules, such as signals to remind them to be silent, showing the correct way to sit, and the act of the raising the hand to ask for permission to speak. This way the student understands the meaning of the rules better. Throughout the class, it was observed that the teacher encouraged the student to use body movements when they spoke. Even if their pronunciation was not the best, the student could convey the adjectives or verbs they were expressing. Finally, it was seen that the teacher used gestures when explaining and remember vocabulary to help understand new adjectives when presenting them. In this way, the student not only observed the word and they heard the pronunciation but also saw gestures that helps them remember the adjectives, learn and try to use them next time they express themselves. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Victoria Salinas and I'm going to talk about the gun game. In this activity, the teacher regarded one of the most outstanding intelligences in his class, the kinesthetic intelligence. We are going to analyze the next steps of this activity. First, the goal setting. The main goal was to evaluate the students' understanding of the texture's vocabulary. In the objectives, we have the terminal objective. Students will successfully describe their feelings and perceptions of the presented stuff. In the enabling objective, students will understand the vocabulary of textures. In the part of procedures, the teacher based this activity on Bloch's taxonomy verbs. And we have the following, like describe their textures and perceptions, infer their characteristics, show their own ideas, analyze their ideas' accuracy, judge their peers' statements, and produce their own knowledge by verbal and nonverbal activities. In the part of timing and pacing, we have that both were based on respect and equality. The teacher successfully managed to make all students, whether they be boys or girls, to participate and get points for their groups. And so all students were willing to participate, they were active, engaged, and they were focused most of the time. In the materials part, we have that the teacher regarded most of the learning styles like auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, the most important. And so he used a wide variety of materials like a plastic gun to get points, a spoon, and some clays for students to understand the textures, and visual presentations to aid students to understand the material. In the evaluation part, the teacher managed to evaluate all the time the speaking, the reading, and listening skills. And so we have that all objectives were successfully accomplished. Students managed to improve their listening skills, their speaking and reading skills. They communicate in both ways, verbal and non-verbally. They identify their strengths and weaknesses, and they build new linguistic schemes by physical activities. They were learning by doing. Thank you.